All right. Welcome to the first episode here at Outside the Gridiron, a Mike Farrell sports podcast. I'm very excited to be part of this first episode. I'm Ryan Evan Schroat, Big Ten correspondent. I am joined for the first episode by Alec Nederveld, publisher and managing editor at MikeFarrellSports.com. Kyle Golik, lead columnist, member of FWAA and PFWA, also a Heisman Trophy voter at some point, Hall of Fame voter at some point. I don't know, maybe future. Cory, Lemer, rankings manager at MikeFarrellSports.com as well. Welcome, guys. What's up?
Good evening, Ryan.
How you doing, Ryan?
How you doing, Ryan?
Man, doing good. This is something we've been working on thinking about for 2 or 3 weeks now. And I just felt like, I think we all agreed that getting a podcast going for MikeFarrellSports.com was good. And, what a perfect time, a month before, kickoff, or maybe a little bit more than a month. Kyle, what's your excitement level right now about 6 weeks before the season starts?
Having been around this dog and pony show now in 4 different decades, I'm still about a 5 or a 6 at this point. It really doesn't get exciting till you start, getting to the weekly press conferences and a lot of the media obligations. I mean, media days next week will probably accelerate it a little bit, but still only a 5 or a 6.
Cory, where are you at right now? Like, is this one of your favorite times of the year? I know me. Once you're getting into August, you're kind of just like camps coming. High school football starting, then college football's right around the corner. What are you feeling?
I'm at an 8. I'm ready to see some of the high school kids get back. New rosters out in Mater Dei, IMG loaded up again. I'm ready to see some of these kids perform. And then on the college football side, I'm buying tickets already.
There we go. Alec, where are you at?
I think I'm probably at a 7. Being a Syracuse fan, I usually don't have much to look up for in the off season, not really until, basketball starts, but got a new coaching staff, got a lot of good transfers. So excited to get the season going the first time in a while.
Yes.
Years that we finally have air conditioning, Alec.
Yes. That is also nice. Yes.
There is some buzz and some excitement for Syracuse football, but really quickly, as we dive into stuff, where would you say the excitement level is with this new coach and staff to where it was when Dino Babers was hired? Don't you feel, wasn't there some excitement when he came from Eastern, with having some success he had there?
What are you talking about from when Dino Babers got hired?
How do you feel like the level is with this new hire compared to when Dino Babers was hired? Because I'm sure there was some excitement with the Syracuse fan base, right?
Yeah, so I was pretty young when Dino Babers got hired, but the big thing was with him was the offense. There was just going to be Dino Babers. He was part of the Art Briles scheme, so they're going to run 100 plays a game. One of their branding things, orange is the new fast. So yeah, there was a lot of excitement with that. He was a winner at Eastern Illinois in the FCS. He came from Bowling Green. He won everywhere he went. So yeah, there was a lot of talent, a lot of excitement. It was only a couple of years ago when under Doug Marrone, the program, was respectable, made a couple bowl games, competed in the Big East. But I think what Fran Brown has done on the recruiting trail is something that Dino Babers has never done. He's gotten a couple 4-stars in very quickly, got, so again, some good portal recruits, mainly Kyle McCord. So it's looking good. I like the assistant coach hires as well. So excited for that.
Yeah, I would agree. I like what he's doing so far. Cory, where does your allegiance lie behind this, professional thing we have to be? We all have an allegiance somewhere. Where does that lie for you?
I mean, I'm with Alabama all the way. As cliche as it sounds, being my age.
Lifelong Bama fan, huh? Roll Tide since you were a newborn?
Yeah.
Okay. I can respect that.
Sticking with it, obviously, DeBoer, not Saban, everybody in between, because I don't think DeBoer is going to last as long as everyone thinks. I think there's somebody that's going to come soon.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? DeBoer's got some nice toys to play with for a couple of years, though. It'd be kind of hard to screw that up. You have to at least fall into 9 wins, Kyle, I'm sure more people probably know maybe where your allegiances are, because you've done so many things. But who are you true to? Go ahead, y'all. Yeah, go ahead and express that.
I need a new hat.
I think it looks like it was from the Paterno era.
It was. It's 1986.
Okay. I was kidding. You're man. All right. So, and you're a Nittany Lion. Okay. So then me as a born and bred Central Illinoisan, fighting Illini and passionate enthusiast, me and you, then obviously we will do battle again this year. And Illinois plays Penn State pretty well, and they've beaten Franklin. They've beaten Franklin three times in his tenure.
You are our, what do they call that? The Generations game, September 28th in Beaver Stadium.
It was going to be the whiteout, I thought, but thank goodness they made that the Washington game.
That's a better move.
Yeah.
The big thing with that is Washington's the greatest setting in the college football. I don't care what anyone says. Until you've seen it, you don't get it. So if Penn State does its whiteout, I can only imagine when the Nittany Lions make their way up to Seattle at Husky Stadium, there's going to be purple rain up there. And I think that's just a great way to get them into the league, because that stadium is wonderful. It's two great teams with two great atmospheres. I think that's a great way for the league to get started.
I would agree. It's going to be interesting with you'll be at Big Ten Media Days next week, which will be fun. And I know, if you're able to join in and get on episode 2, we'd appreciate that. But if you're, mingling with the other folk there, that's understandable. But it'll be interesting, with the additions of USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, just some fun matchups this year. To start off, the first topic we're going to get to today, media day impressions so far. I think, we've had the SEC going currently, and we had Big 12 last week. To me, the first one that sticks out, and we'll see if, maybe you guys agree or have some other ones, would be, of course, Mike Gundy kind of sticking his foot in his mouth, talking about, drinking. He's had 2 or 3 beers while he was drinking, driving, and he's just been lucky that he hasn't gotten in trouble with some of these athletes that are getting in trouble drinking, and then of course Georgia players get arrested, so what have been some of the impressions so far, even though we're not into all of them yet, but things that have stood out from you that you've seen or heard from different coaches, or maybe you agree with what Mike Gundy said? We'll start with you, Alec.
It's definitely a different approach from Mike Gundy. I know that later on social media, he tried to frame, I don't know if he or somebody from Oklahoma State, somebody in public relations, tried to frame that as made 1,000 mistakes, not, drunk driving 1,000 times. It's an approach that he's standing by Ollie Gordon. He's, supporting his best player, one of the best players Oklahoma State's had in a couple of years now. It's definitely bold. Mike Gundy, he's really never cared what the media says. So he's just doing more of that today or the other day.
Just having some fun with some of these layouts. See what we got. So Kyle, go ahead. What's up? You're up.
So, we all seen Mike Gundy, I'm 40, I'm a man, rant at some point in our lives.
These guys were like 3 or 4 years old when he said that, though.
Yeah, correct. But I mean, if Mike Gundy's a man, like, let's think about this here. A man doesn't go out and do reckless things that can harm other people's lives and harm families and whatnot, because a man knows the value of his actions and governs himself accordingly. I don't care how Mike Gundy wants to spin it. It was despicable.
Yeah. Cory, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it just sounds like classic Mike Gundy to me. As awful as it is, I agree with Kyle. It just sounds like something that he would say and then try to spin off later. It really just does.
All I took from Mike Gundy's quote is, "I'm Mike Gundy. I coach football. I can do what I want." That's how Neanderthal it was.
And of course another top thing that's been creating buzz and is basically Nick Saban telling Texas folk, "Hey, you ain't running nothing in the SEC." So I don't really. He's like, I don't think they really ran the Big 12 either. But I mean, they're definitely not coming to the SEC to run anything. Do you like that Nick Saban's just so blunt and honest, or do you think maybe guys should hold back a little bit just because he has earned that, in my opinion? What do you think on that, Kyle?
So I'm gonna take the devil's advocate. I'm gonna take the Texas side on this. And while I do agree a lot with what Saban is, let me try to see if I can swing from the other side of the plate here. How does Saban even know what Texas is going to be in 10, 20, or 30 years? If this game continues to professionalize itself with a lot of the resources and a lot of the NIL and whatnot, Texas has positioned itself to be at the forefront of it. And if they can get the right coach in there, it's game over. So I think Saban's, it's kind of easy to say what's the interim going to be, but I never count the eyes of Texas out. There's too many good recruits there. It's as fertile of a recruiting ground as there is. I just think Saban's just throwing shade because he knows he can.
Cory?
I mean, Saban's earned the right to talk. Everyone knows that. However, he's wrong. Texas is going to come in there, and I think they actually will do well because Sarkisian is an offensive genius, and people are forgetting 2 years ago he was coaching against these SEC defenses at Alabama. And he's getting these defensive players with the help of NIL. I mean, he landed Colin Simmons, that's going to be a day one starter on that defensive line, and he's not going to stop there. He's going to continue to land these guys that are going to help him improve the defense. And as long as he's helping run the offense, they can 100% compete at the top three of the SEC.
Alec, that's interesting. So you either have to agree with one or the other. I mean, you can't be in the middle. So what's your take?
I'm going to end up somewhere in the middle.
Oh, man.
All right, hear me out. I think the first year, Texas, there will be an adjustment for Texas going to the SEC. Just the average player in the SEC is better than the average player in the Big 12. They're that much bigger. They're that much faster. They're that much stronger. They're that much whatever. And it's going to be an adjustment. I think that a lot of the SEC fan bases, I mean, same thing really happened in the Big 12, but they don't like Texas. They don't like how, let's say, arrogant the Texas fan base has been. And going back to Nick Saban's comment that Texas hasn't really done anything the past 10 years, that is true. They won the Big 12 last year, but past that, they've been a very good program, but not as good as they should have been, not as good as they have been historically.
Yeah, Tom Herman had them pretty good there with Sam Ehlinger for a couple of seasons, and then I think they won the Sugar Bowl, and I'm back. We're back, and then didn't do anything for the next 2 or 3 years. And then now they are. What'd you say, Kyle?
This is way different. Sarkisian got him built as a fine motor right now, as good of an engine as he can. Tom Herman was a Saturday evening mechanic in a garage trying to mess with a hot rod high-end motor. You can't even make the comparison. To me, Sarkisian, I still feel he's still got things to prove, as I had in my SEC coaches list, but he's he's night and day beyond Herman. This program, I mean, they really got to up the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, it's as potent as any offense in the nation.
Yeah, and I want to make this clear for anybody. Well, I didn't say Tom Herman is Steve Sarkisian. I was just saying that Tom Herman did bring them up out of some depths there, and they were actually competing and playing games, winning some games in the top 10. And but no, I don't think Tom Herman is Steve Sarkisian. I just want to make that clear. Now, of course, there's some other lively, fun personalities. Even though, I live in Illinois and Missouri's a bitter rival, and we will be playing them here in a couple of years, which I'm not looking forward to, because Mizzou's got it rolling. What are your guys' thoughts on Elijah Drinkwitz and what he's got rolling there with Missouri? Because I think they're obviously a threat again this year to maybe even win the SEC. I mean they're tough.
I don't really see them as an SEC favorite. I don't know if they ever will be an SEC favorite at Missouri, but what Eli Drinkwitz is doing at Mizzou, it's very good. I think they have the most favorable schedule in the SEC. They do have to play Alabama at home, A&M at home, and a trip to Oklahoma. But past that, it's a pretty workable schedule, especially if you look at, let's say,
10 wins is doable. 10 wins is doable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And 10 wins in the SEC is a playoff lock pretty much.
And just think about where they were just a few seasons ago. That's kind of what's caught my eye, and I'm thinking, yikes. Cory, what are your thoughts on what Coach Drinkwitz is doing?
Recruiting side of the ball, he's doing a really, really good job right now. Landing Matt Zoller as a future quarterback after Brady Cook, who just competed in Elite 11 and did pretty well for coming in underrated. Landing a couple key receivers, a couple key pieces across both sides of the ball. However, he's still way behind every other top SEC school, like Alabama, Georgia, Texas. If he doesn't pick that up, Mizzou is going to stay middle of the pack after this year. And they won't be able to keep up because Texas won't slow down, Alabama won't slow down, Georgia won't either. And those would all be losable games to Missouri.
Yeah, well, I mean that's part of the game. What he's getting paid. But I know last year they had some close calls where they had Georgia down late. You get one wild defensive tackle deflection interception, and maybe Mizzou pulls that one out. So maybe I think capitalizing this year is going to be key for him. Kyle, do you have anything else to add?
I think Missouri is the SEC equivalent to Iowa. They're a great middle power in the SEC, and that's all they're ever going to be. They had their year in the sun last year where they got that phantom Cotton Bowl win against an Ohio State team that, quite frankly, that was an embarrassment of what was on the field that night for them. They got some talent. Luther Burden is as good as anybody in the country. I recognize that, but I think you got to look at the SEC, pecking order and start to ask yourself, okay, where does, look at how Lane Kiffin has had to, for several years, get Ole Miss to the point of where he has them humming to. I think, they have a favorable schedule, but when it comes to going against the elite powers, they're not there. I think it's a top middle power that kind of like when Purdue snuck into the Big Ten championship game. That's kind of what Missouri is under Drinkwitz, and they're never going to get rid of that.
So you think they might be able to sneak into an SEC title game?
Not this year, but it's one of those phantom years that where the chips fall right. You might see a Missouri in there, but they're your prototypical 8-4, 9-3 program at this point. That's their ceiling.
Okay. And with us mentioning Luther Burden, it's something that we discussed, in a group, together as like a staff. We were talking about different players, and we're going to transition here to NCAA college football 25 just came out. And we were talking about Luther Burden being, a 94 overall and where he deserved to be rankings wise in the top 10. So I thought talking about Luther Burden to that is a huge talking point right now going across, the country. Alec, you've told me that, you've played it, you sound like you're going to know way more than I am on it. And I'm excited to play it. But so your thoughts on the game, the gameplay, ratings, rankings, just overall, what do you think? What do you think about it?
I think that the atmosphere is insane. Just you have 11 years of a technological gap that you don't see with other sport games, and you can also just tell that the developers, they spent a huge portion of their time, making sure that the atmosphere is good. The player entrances, for example, those are all very good. The stadiums look beautiful, for example. The ratings, I mean, I'm not going to dive into the ratings too much. Every sport game has ratings that are off. I mean, you have to, I guess, quantify players that you normally wouldn't have to do for a ranking. If you're just, ranking your top 10 players, cool, you can do that. But it's a little bit harder when you have to rank every single player, and you have to rank their, I don't know, their speed and their throw power, and even the little stuff like throw under pressure or short accuracy, something like that. Obviously, those are for quarterbacks, not really relating to Luther Burden and his ranking. But you have, I don't know. It's not, I don't look into rankings that much. Yes, Luther Burden, he probably should be a top 10 player. He probably should be higher than, say, Travis Hunter as a receiver, but he's still a 94 overall. He's still one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, some of the clips I've seen, I paid attention to the Illinois one in particular, obviously, is I think they got I would give it a 9 out of 10. I think they missed some small little details, like when Illinois enters the field, they, Bielema's got them. It's like workmen, like guys that are coming out of that garage, we're here to get grimy, dirty. They lift that garage door up, like the steel door. They missed that. That's really it, though. How everything else, how they enter, the specific place they put, like the fireworks and the orange, smoke and all that stuff. That's all right, on point. For you, Kyle, and then we'll get to you, Cory. Have you seen Penn State's entrance? Have you kind of seen how?
Well, that's all that's being flooded. I got a chance to see it in the flesh the other day. I was, again, I'm not real into the video games itself, but I was impressed by what is all in the game, how close to detail everything is. It's fantastic in that regard. I'm the guy that lives off of NCAA 2006, and I'm the guy that still tries to mod my NHL 2004 for PC.
I'm guessing those are two. Are you saying the years of birth of Alec and Cory, or no?
Yeah.
It might be, but if for those that are in the gaming community who know about the NHL 04 mods, you know what I'm talking about. We exist out there. I am one of you.
Yeah, believe it or not, that we enjoyed those games at that point, and we thought those graphics looked great.
And I still do.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. You know what? Can't go wrong with the first GTA 2. Yeah, there we go. All right. GTA 2, GTA 3.
Vice City and San Andreas.
Yes. Cory, what did you think when you got to feel like you were at home there in Tuscaloosa and you looked around? Did it look like, Bama's home? Did they get everything right, with the entrance and the field and all that?
Yeah, I mean, everything looked correct. I mean, obviously with what Alex said, there's nitpicking with the rankings and the ratings. I mean, there's some players I look at and I just question where they were thinking or what they even looked at when giving a ranking. But as far as entrances, as far as gameplay, and as far as using players on Alabama's team, I mean, they did a pretty good job. And the big thing that they did, which I'm sure Alec agrees, knowing that he played the game, is they listened to the community on what we wanted in this game.
Yeah.
One complaint I had heard is like you can't import like a draft class or something. I don't know if that's true or not, Alec.
Yeah. So you can't import a draft class from the college game to Madden, which I know you could do that in pretty much all like the PS2, PS3 NCAA games. You can make your own class in Madden. So, but I mean, it is kind of a loss, but it's not really the end of the world. Another thing that this is really, I think this has to do with the deal that EA Sports set up with the players. You can't change any of the players' numbers or the players' equipment. No, you can change equipment, but you can't change anything else about the player.
Okay. Yeah. And I know specific schools, depending on, I think they're I think it was how many stars I don't know how they got a specific amount of money or bowl game tiers or something. I saw.
Yeah, they got.
Yeah.
I think it was based on the amount of wins or the amount of bowls you reached in the past 10 years or something. And that's a direct payout to the school for being featured in the game.
Yeah, like Bama and all those other ones but they got like 110 to 150,000, something like that. The highest tier. Illinois got like 15,000.
That's why Utah was up there, because they've gone to a lot of big time bowls.
Yeah. Another thing that I had seen, or I was curious about is it Road to Glory, where you can choose you can be a 5-star and you basically are expected to produce now. 4-star, you're expected just to contribute. 3-star, you got to grind though to get some playing time, and then the 2-star, which means you got to bust your tail and to get any time at all. Like, have you played those, Alec?
I have not played Road to Glory yet, but yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And people are saying the 2-star one's the route you got to take. Like, who wants the easy route? Who wants it handed to you? Like
2-star routes all great.
3-star. Yeah,
2-star rates all great and all till you don't touch the field till you're a junior. So you got to just sit through practice and garbage time for 2 years.
Yeah, nobody.
It's a rebuild.
Play the game while you're just watching everybody. Yeah, true. Yeah. Cory, thoughts on that? Like the Road to Glory and other things in the game?
Road to Glory, I'm not the biggest fan of, because I love the way NCAA 14 did it, starting in high school and being able to play. I think it was 8-ish games, Alec, and then playoffs.
Something like that.
I mean, that was amazing, being able to get actually recruited, pick a list of schools, get interest from the schools. I mean, I think it just takes away the fun out of the game, because whoop-de-doo, all of a sudden I press a button and I'm a 5-star and now every school in the country wants me. I mean, where's the fun in that?
Yeah. You know what, though? That is, I can promise you this. They'll listen to the fans again for next year's game.
Yeah.
And that probably will be back in it if they hear that enough.
Yeah.
So I'm confident in that. Yeah, so I'm going to be working on getting that copy. It was more of just like, hey, you got to have a PS5 to play it. I've had my PS4 for a while, and now I'm like, it's time to probably upgrade, and this is a good reason why. So I think Kyle might be the only one sitting this one out.
I'm still rocking a PlayStation 2 Slim unit, and I have the HDMI converter to my TV. And I enjoy Tiger Woods 2006. I enjoy NCAA 2006. I still love doing those classic game things. So I'm content there. I still don't feel the need to upgrade. I didn't feel the need to upgrade to PS3, PS4, or PS5. So we'll reconsider when PS6 comes out and see what happens.
Goodness. Now, the last topic for the very first episode. And folks, as the season gets nearer and dearer, we'll be talking, some big time matchups and, that we're looking forward to, or, storylines heading into the week, fun things like that. But, another big topic and discussion for college football right now is, of course, more realignment, and this time it sounds like Florida State and Clemson are the names. And surprisingly, Cory, I'll start with you. Surprisingly, it sounds like some big conferences are like, no thanks to FSU and Clemson. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm honestly, with the SEC at least, not surprised. They went through so much trouble with just Texas and Oklahoma, which geographically makes sense to be in the SEC, at least with Texas A&M being there and Missouri being there, which doesn't make that much sense. But they kind of go along the same lines. Florida State and Clemson just doesn't make that much sense to me. And then with all the trouble they went through to get those two teams in, why a year later add two more that not many schools, I don't think, would really want them in the conference?
Yeah, Alec, the only thing I could say is, you got two perennial powerhouses. Well, FSU is becoming that now. Yeah. It looks like Norvell's got them rolling, and Dabo is going to always have Clemson as long as he's there. To me, competing and winning probably 8 to 10 games still. So why do you think, or do you think it was are they worth the trouble, or do you think it's smart from the Big Ten and the SEC to basically tell, Clemson and FSU, we're not interested?
I'm going to start with the SEC. The SEC, they have so many good programs. They have, especially right in the Southeast. What does Florida State and Clemson even add? They don't add a new TV market. They already have teams in Florida and South Carolina, and it's not like the SEC is going to gain any more brand prestige by having Florida State and Clemson. They are to just about everybody. They are the top conference, and yes, adding Florida State and Clemson, that'll push them higher. They'll be first by a wider margin over the Big Ten, but is that really going to help that much? Then the other thing would be the TV deal. And again, they have a TV deal set for I don't know how long, and I don't know how much more money the SEC would get by having Florida State and Clemson. Now, the other thing would be for the Big Ten. It does make more sense for the Big Ten to add Florida State and Clemson. It sounds like they want to have teams, I guess everywhere in the country. They expanded out west to get Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, which the SEC did not want to do. And now the Big Ten can get a footprint in the Southeast. They can get a footprint in fertile recruiting territory and get two programs that, let's be real, they're definitely better than UCLA, arguably better than Washington and Oregon historically. Maybe not in the upcoming years, considering how much Dan Lanning has done for Oregon. But it makes sense why the Big Ten would want to stick with 18. I don't know if they want to have a 20-team conference, but it also, it doesn't really make a ton of sense why they wouldn't want to get Florida State and Clemson, considering they have been very aggressive in realignment.
Yeah. Kyle, what do you think?
So I'm going to paint a picture here. It's what does ESPN, Fox, CBS, NBC are willing to pay for the inventory? When you look at what Kevin Warren was doing in the Big Ten prior to poaching USC and UCLA, his vision was to have what the Big Ten is going to be this season. He wanted also Oregon and Washington, but at the time, they felt everyone in the Big Ten didn't feel that this was going to work, and this was a frustrating point. Part of the reason why Warren bailed on the Big Ten to go to the Chicago Bears as an NFL administrator. When it became evident that there was, you could get Oregon and Washington pennies on a dollar, that's when it happened. When I look at where the ACC is, and I'm looking at what all the TV folk are saying in realignment, it's all about new markets, new states, and how to do it. I firmly believe Sankey, the SEC commissioner, he doesn't want a national brand. He wants to keep that regional brand, but he does want to creep a little bit. I think the two assets he wants right out of the gate are North Carolina and Virginia. That is well known, and that's been really sought after. He would love to get FSU and Clemson for pennies on a dollar. I really think what you heard from Petiti, from the Big Ten office, I know it's going to be brought up next week when I'm there in Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days. But I think what you're hearing is a lot of posturing. It's essentially it's filtered through the BS from what's being put out there, and that saying we're saying no thanks, they won't be good partners and whatnot. I don't think that's true. It's we don't have financial commitment for the inventory, because I'm telling you right now, FSU and Clemson, when you look at the TV ratings in the dollars that they generate, because this is what it's all about, guys. They don't care about fertile recruiting grounds. They don't care about wins. There's a reason why the Big Ten thrived to bring in Maryland and Rutgers, and it was definitely Rutgers wasn't brought in because of the fertile recruiting ground in New Jersey. They were brought in because of cable subscription, TV sets, and all that. What this is all about is getting to the end there. Right now, there's no inventory for Florida State and Clemson. It's just posturing right now, because I'm telling you what, I think FSU and Clemson will end up in the Big Ten at the end of the day, because it's new territory for it. Clemson keeps pushing itself academically. Florida State's willing to push it. I just don't think it's the time right now. I think it's just both those schools being impatient. But I'm telling you right now, the SEC could poach North Carolina and Virginia, they would be in there, and I think that conference would be set at 20.
Okay, and one thing that I wish Notre Dame would just let go and just join the Big Ten for football. It's like it just would make too much sense for me, and I think in just the geographical location, and they've had some nice rivalries and matchups with Purdue over the years, and Michigan State and Michigan. The Michigan, of course, would be the biggest one in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then add the Ohio State factor in of late. They've had a couple series where they played each other and in the postseason, and I think
USC.
Yeah, and then USC now. I just feel like at some point, man, Notre Dame just needs to let go. And
100%. You Penn State back in the late 80s, early 90s, Paterno and Holtz put on classics every year. It's a no-brainer for them until NBC's not willing to pay Notre Dame for what it's worth. And Notre Dame, this is what Swarbrick said last year on the Dan Patrick show, whenever the Irish were doing their classic over in Ireland against Navy. He was a guest on there. Notre Dame will remain independent until the day that they either can't make enough money to compete or their access to the college football playoff is cut off. Right now, they're making enough the money, and they have 12-team playoff. You trying to in this era where you have to get 12 teams in there. If Notre Dame's 10-2 or 11-1, are they going to just squeeze out Notre Dame? I don't ever see that happening. It will only happen if the Big Ten and the SEC get to the point where they're like NFL leagues, where it's like, I want my 6 spots, and there's no room for anybody else. And I don't think the networks are willing to pony up the dollars for that.
Okay. I mean, hey, I trust you in that way, Kyle. I know you check out all those shows, and I can't. I like Dan Patrick, but man, I just can't sit there for a whole episode. And I think there's so many options nowadays too. Really quickly before we get to the last thing here, what are your go-to guys? What's your go-to, like either podcasts or radio shows? What's your go-to for your college football fix, Alec?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't watched a podcast or anything for college football in a while. I used to watch Josh Pate every day, or every episode. I just slept, and I really haven't started that up again.
Hey,
I'm kind of weird about that.
Can't blame you for that. I mean, I get it, man. Like we're busy, but obviously we have to stay in tune and touch somehow. Cory, any go-tos?
I got a mix of different generations. I got the old guy and the young guy, Josh Pate and Paul Feinbaum.
Okay, yeah, Paul Feinbaum is an enigma himself. He's he's a lightning rod for good or bad. And Kyle, does it sound like you, Dan Patrick's your as a go-to?
He's not Mike. He's in the rotation. I would want to be a homer and say Outside the Gridiron's my go-to.
It will be soon.
Absolutely. But in all seriousness, so established programs, because we're still establishing ourselves. Crane and Company, I usually check into from the Daily Wire. I'll put on a Sirius XM, put on Full Ride there with the new Heisel, and when our Mike Farrell's on. I enjoy.
The way Mike will be joining some of these episodes, people. I just want you to know.
Absolutely. Dan Lebitard's a big one. I'm a big fan of listening to him, especially with the Miami. And then, even though I am not a WVU fan, Three Guys Before the Game is quite possibly one of the more entertaining podcasts, a WVU-centric one that you got to just check out at least once.
I like Joel Klatt, so I like listening to Joel Klatt. He's got his own show, so and then of course there's some of these other guys have their stuff going on. I'm trying to remember his name. He's on ESPN though. He's a former Bama quarterback, Greg McElroy. There we go.
Yeah,
I like listening to Greg McElroy. He's got his own little thing going, his own show, and he has little clips and stuff. So that's kind of where my go-to. I like guys that'll tell it like it is that don't.
You know who I won't listen to? Kirk Herbstreit. He's a clown.
Who?
Kirk Herbstreit.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know why? He's a guy that'll pontificate on from Bristol about how everything will be. Like, look at the whole Florida State fallout and how the Florida State fans literally went after him after that.
Yeah. Ohio State fans come after him.
Oh yeah, I think he's the biggest clown in the industry. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
I know Mike's buddies with him. Mike, it's just my thoughts.
If Pat McAfee would stop being such a jokester. I mean, he's great, but it's like sometimes you're like, I'd like a little substance with the silly. You know what I mean? Like, he's so worried about being silly and making you laugh. It's like sometimes that's taken away from what he's trying to say. But
we went to neighboring school districts. He went to Plum. I went to Highlands. So we're right. We're right. We are cut from the same cloth.
Okay. All right. So before we jump off here, and we thank anybody who paid attention and watched this first episode or listen, because eventually it will be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're going to get this on YouTube and Facebook. And then at some point we'll get it on X here soon. So what we have cooking at Mike Farrell Sports. Kyle, I know you've wrote some pieces lately. What's your last piece you wrote, and what you think your next one will be?
So I've been working my way through the Power Four for the coaching rankings. I got the Big 12 that I'm finishing up on. So that'll be out. We check out the Big 10, SEC, and ACC rankings that are out now. So hopefully when you listen to this, the Big 12 should be out. Probably coming up next is I'll be in Indianapolis, credential for the Big 10 Media Days. I'll be there for days 2 and 3 of it. Unfortunately, a dental procedure I couldn't get rescheduled for timely, and I got to get it done. So that's why I'm missing day 1. But check out, I'll be pumping content from Indy next week, and hopefully I'll be chiming in with you guys from Indy somewhere, hopefully from St. Elmo's.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, take as big a scoop of cocktail sauce as you can. Cory, okay, I know his rankings manager. So what's up next for you? What are you cooking? What do you got going on?
We got the 2026 rankings coming. Different format this year. We're scrapping player pages to find an easier format to make them. However, we're going to work in a bunch of evaluations and some articles, get a bunch of grades on some players, get some stuff out real fast.
And Alec, obviously, is publisher and, big time editor there here at MikeFarrellSports.com. You can articles ever from you? Do you do articles?
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
I try to get some about, I don't know, roughly once a week, maybe more depending on how my schedule's looking.
What's next for you then?
I want to get something. I want to get a couple recruiting articles, just big picture stuff on a couple of the big riders of the class, like Rutgers, for example. They've got close to 30 commits, one of their best classes in years. Still to Maryland. I think they're going to be a pretty big mover in a couple of days, get a couple 4-stars coming in. They've had, I think, their best class since Loxley got hired. Stuff like that. Excited to get that going for the future as well.
All right, awesome. So I think this was a successful first episode, fellas. What do you think?
Yeah, me too.
I had a blast, and I'll be looking forward to coming back again and entertaining our fans.
Yeah, there we go. And Kyle, a showman. Look, he's a showman. So we'll get Mike on here.
Fans.
I'm going to talk about getting Mike on here at least once a month. We're going to do it every week. He's like, you're going to have to pull my teeth, drag me on there. And I'm like, okay, Mike, well, we'll see. I think you'll like to do it when we're consistently doing it. So, that'll do it. Again, I'm Ryan Evan, Schroat, Big Ten correspondent. Thanks again, Alec, Cory, Kyle. We'll see you next week.